Welcome everyone to interview number 32 of OWC Improvement Month. Today with Decaten. Hello, welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me here, Habib.
Yeah, welcome. And first off, I know some people get confused seeing your name. I feel like a lot of people are resisting the truth of how to pronounce your username because the etymology is like deca meaning 10 and then the word 10. So a lot of people feel like that's just the most intuitive thing, but what's the story behind Decaden and the pronunciation as well?
Okay, so Decaten, right? Um, so when I was a little kid, right, I had this username named, okay, I'm gonna put it in chat. It
Okay.
was Denger1993HGGFRT. Okay. So that that was like my username for like when I was like 7 to like 8 years old, I'd say. Or actually no, I think that continued onward to like when I was 9. And then I realized, wow. And so what happened was, right, I wanted to do Denger, right, originally. I'm pretty sure this is what my 8-year-old brain thought. So I wanted to do Denger, but then it didn't, it was already taken, right? So I was like, okay, my dad was like, okay, put numbers on it. And so I kind of just like spammed and it ended up being that way.
1993. So
Yeah.
it's not the year. It's not the year.
Yeah, not the year, no, it was everything past Denger was just spam. And so in lobbies and stuff, like people would obviously, kind of poke fun at my numbers because it's like the year.
Right.
Yeah, so that happened for a little bit, but I think this was around when I was 9. I was like, I wanted a new username, right? And so I kind of just like Denger and Decaden, like they both kind of start similarly in terms of like pronunciation, and then like and so okay, at the time I didn't know that Deca meant 10, right? And so it kind of just happened.
By
It kind
coincidence.
Yeah, by coincidence, right? And I didn't know until like a few years later that someone told me that Deca meant 10 and that my username meant 1010. And okay, at the time, like 10-year-old me, I was like, dude, I was like, I thought that ruined my name for a bit, right? Because I was like, man,
Oh,
it's like 1010, right? It's not like and but eventually it kind of just grew on me, and so like I ended up just like saying like, oh yeah, so like 1010 means like 10 out of 10, you know? That's kind of the idea of that's kind of what I stuck with after
wait.
knowing that.
So what is Decaden? Is it just a name you thought sounded cool?
Yeah, pretty much.
And the other question, going back to your old username, so was Denger 1993 taken, and you had to add the letters, or what?
Yeah, I think Denger 1993 was taken as well.
That's impressive for way back. That was like what 10 years ago or so.
Yeah.
Dang, there was another Denger in 1993 out there. So that was your username origin, and I think aside from that, discussing Osu, there's no better place to start than the beginning. So can you walk us through sort of how you first found the game back in January 2005 and your history with like what got you first inspired to keep playing the game?
Okay, so what first got me inspired to playing the game? Okay, so as you can
Wait.
tell,
Sorry, did I
like,
say 2005? I
sorry,
meant 2015.
yeah,
Oops.
2015. Okay, so surprisingly, okay, I was introduced to the game by my brother that saw a video, but what actually got me started playing Osu was definitely like Wobbleflip's old videos. Like stuff like his cocaine HDHRFC and like his like Magic Girl. Like
Oh
you during
yeah.
his like farm arc and stuff, like that was definitely when I what do you call it? That's how I got into the game. And that like he was kind of like my first inspiration.
Oh, so you found the game through his videos like on your feed, pretty much?
Yeah, pretty much. Or that's how I like that inspired me to like get good at the game, pretty much.
Ah, interesting. So your play count fluctuated quite a bit throughout your first couple of years. It seems like from what pretty much I can't even quite tell, but like the end of the year, like October, November, December, you would play. And then come January through like June-ish, I guess, or like midsummer, you would basically not play at all. Like if I'm looking at the play history graph in your first couple of years, what exactly was bringing you like on and off from the game back then?
Um, on and off back then. Honestly, okay, so this was during the time when I had like a pretty crappy laptop and like what do you call it? I just wasn't into the game as much at the time. Like a lot of my like on and off sort of places it was during like my like Counter-Strike arc and stuff. This is when I was like, I wanted to play FPS for a little while. And like not only that, but during the summer months, so like May, like August, like around those parts, I had a what do you call it? I went to the Philippines and visited family during those times, and it was usually for like a few weeks or a month or so. And so yeah, that's kind of the reason why my play count fluctuated, but it's still like it was still a bit fluctuating, even like towards like 2018 and stuff. That was of course like what do you call it? 2018 was when I played Rust a lot, and
Oh,
so like yeah, so I didn't really what do you call it? Pay attention to Osu really until I was like until 2019, as you can see, like the huge spike in play
right.
count. That was when I was like, man, I really like wanted to, push the game a bit farther. And I think if I remember correctly, I don't remember what I did in February. I think I was still 4 digit, but I remember like oh right, it was December 2020 when I hit 3 digit just before the year ended.
I'm kind of impressed in some sense. Like even after you say like in 2019 you started taking the game a lot more seriously, but your play count is really really low.
Yeah, I think during this time I still like what do you call it? I had this one friend group that it was like comprised of like just like really close friends, and I think it was like 8 or 6 people. And like I don't know if you know Shui, but like he was also in that. He kind of pushed me to go for 4 digit and stuff. I mean, I don't think his name is known to a lot of players, but I think to like a few players at the top, like you might know him.
I do recognize that name, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so
So,
he kind of oh yeah.
oh no, no, I wasn't saying anything actually.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. So he kind of what do you call it? Kind of inspired me. He was like, what do you call it? Because okay, my old username was XX Decaten XX, right? If you
Oh really?
check. Yeah, yeah, on my Osu. And so he was like, okay, dude, if you get 4 digit, I'll buy you supporter and you can get a free name change to just change it to Decaden. And I was like, all right, bet.
Oh,
And so that's why February, I'm pretty sure, was why I pushed for 4 digit at the time.
looking at your speaking of your username, looking at your profile, the banner that's on top, the coloring of your username is like Deca is white, and then the 10 part is like an off beige sort of color. So it's like distinguished. I feel like that's probably not helping people who like assume that it's Deca 10.
Oh yeah, that's true. I kind of okay. So I had my friend, this is like what do you call it? Just like make it for me. He was like, all right, I'll just like. It was more of just like a fun project for him to make it. He didn't really want anything in return. He was just like, oh yeah, sure, I'll do it for you.
Or like make a banner.
Yeah, just like make a cool banner. So yeah, that's what happened with that.
This banner, by the way, what's this? Let me put this on the screen for those watching the recording. But there's a suspicious little cat guy with the mouse. What's the story? What's going
Okay,
on there?
so I was kind of obsessed with that image at the time. I thought it was really funny, and so I was like, okay, here. And I was also like a mouse. I'm also like a mouse player too, right? And so like the banner kind of just like I'd say it kind of like symbolizes that like I don't know. I'm pretty like relax, you know? I don't really take the game too seriously at all, even if I'm in OWC and stuff. Like I try to have as much fun as possible. And not
Right.
only that, but I also like I also want to showcase that like I'm a mouse player because I don't know, I just think it's like cool, you know? Or yeah, that's like the whole point of that. It's like I don't know, I just like being like being cool.
I
It's so
mean,
it's so stupid, but it's just like even the dumb stuff, you know, kind of carry me through stuff, and it's just like it's just whatever, you know.
not only are you a mouse player, but I think something that a lot of people actually probably don't know is that you're a left-handed mouse. Not to say that you're left-handed and you play with mouse, but that you literally use the mouse with your left hand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's the story there?
So so I kind of just learned it naturally as when I was young. So like I always knew that I was left hand dominant, and because I was young, I was never really properly taught like you know like how to actually use a mouse and keyboard like properly. I kind of just learned it myself, and so like if you here, so I can show my webcam really fast. I can just show you like what it's like
I don't know if you
for
can do
people to
that
see.
on stages.
Oh crap, I can't. Oh
Oh
okay.
no, you could put a picture
Here.
if you want,
Oh yeah, for
or you
sure.
have a couple live plays I know as well.
Yeah, but if you can't tell, like what do you call it? If you look at some of my streams, like you can see that like I literally use the keyboard like with my right hand, and my mouse is like really close to each other, basically. Like both of my hands are like really close to each other when I play FPS and stuff. And so basically the whole like story behind like my left hand aim, my left hand dominance is just like what do you call it? That's just how I've been playing games, and I've just stuck with it because it's like really convenient. And I don't really want to switch over to like my right hand and like learn like a proper way of playing games because I think this is like a really interesting way to play games. And also it's just much more comfortable for me because it's what I've learned or what I've just stuck with for like the past like 5, 6 years.
I actually can't tell from like the current VOD that's on your your hand cam that only shows your mouse and pretty much not your tapping. I actually can't, but I think in your Euphoria Hard Rock live play, it's clearer. Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, okay, here I can link this tweet for those in the live chat, and I'll sort of screenshot your hand cam, but and I'll put it on the screen. But yeah, I think that that's something that really stood out to me for sure. So
Mm.
do you actually are you like actually left-handed?
Yeah, I'm actually left-handed. Like
Okay,
that's
okay.
I've been using my left hand. I've always used it for the longest time. I'm so bad with my right hand.
I see. So do you find that tapping or like aim came more naturally to you because you were using your dominant?
Yeah, for sure. I think when I use my dominant hand, like it just like it just feels a lot more natural. Like because what do you call it? I was a tablet player before for a little bit. I
Oh,
was yeah, I was what do you call it? I was a mouse player through my 6 digit days, and then I got a tablet. Went to around like mid 5 digit. This was still back in like 2017, 2018, and then I was like I kind of don't like tablet, and so I switched back to mouse, and then this is where I ended up.
dang, that's interesting because I know a lot of people probably feel like, especially mouse players, I feel like there's this pressure that like tablet's better, and like even if it's not comfortable, just force yourself to get used to it. Or I guess that there's not that much pressure about it, but some people might definitely feel that. So I think it's
Mm,
cool that you're able to kind of share that experience where you actually went from tablet back to mouse.
yeah, yeah. I think people shouldn't be afraid of like having to switch back and stuff. Like if you're not comfortable with something, like then just like switch back. You know, like that's how I felt about recently. Actually, I've learned something that like what do you call it? I learned something about myself that was like sort of true, but like I kind of obsessed with like trying to get like the perfect sensitivity for a little bit, right? Or like throughout my time of playing games, and like I saw a tweet and I was like a lot of like what do you call it? Just like really cracked aimers and stuff. Just like don't really care for their sends, you know? They kind of just like switch whatever feels comfortable
Right.
and just make use of it, you know? And they're really good. And I was like, wow, that actually makes a lot of sense. Because it's like, why would you stress over like what do you call it? Getting the perfect sensitivity between every single game when you can just like, you know, just like change your settings up a little bit, you know, feel if it feels good or not, and then just, you know, just play the game. Like I think people might obsess too much over getting perfect setups and stuff, when in reality you just need to do what's comfortable for you.
Yeah, I have on the screen a screenshot of your hand cam from your Euphoria Hard Rock live play that definitely showcases the fact that you are indeed aiming with your left hand on the mouse. And speaking of the score, in preparation for this interview, a certain trail mix suggested that you talk about your Euphoria Hard Rock play. Do you have any thoughts, anything to say? Because I think so that score. So the tweet that you posted about it says you got top 300 global by playing Hard Rock Euphoria.
Okay, so Hard Rock Euphoria has was kind of in my sights for like a little bit during this time. Like I remember trying it for the first time like a few weeks before that score happened, and I was like, "Wow, this is actually like kind of doable for me, right?" And so I kind of just like I put it down for a bit, but I was still like putting in like a few attempts on it, you know, trying to see like how good of a run I can get on it. And like there was some runs where I was like, "Oh my God, like I could get that score." And then I ended up failing at the end because you know, it's like it's Euphoria Hard Rock, like that map is
Yeah,
really goddamn hard, you know. And so that play just kind of happened out of nowhere. It was just it felt like a really good day for me, and I'm not gonna lie, I totally was not expecting to get like PP out of it, but I did, and that's kind of just what happened. I do think that the score like was definitely one of like the monumental scores that like kind of kicked up my popularity though in like the
yeah,
OSU community.
yeah. I think. I mean that tweet ended up with 1,700 likes, which is quite a lot, especially on OC Twitter.
Mm-hmm. But I think there was one very far back clip that actually that I'd say it was like the start the start of like my arc, I'd say. Here, let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, sure. So you mentioned in response to the Hard Rock Euphoria suggestion of Trail Mix to talk about that you said that it's not even you don't even quite consider it one of your better scores these days.
Yeah, yeah, that I think Hard Rock Euphoria is kind of a bit overrated in my opinion now. I definitely have scores that I think are much better than that, or at least in my opinion. Because Hard Rock Euphoria, for me, it was just like it was just flow aim and like, you know, alt aim at like the jump section. And
Right.
those skill sets are kind of like at the time they were like my main stuff, right? And so it was kind of it felt kind of granted for me per se, but it wasn't like it was obviously still a cool score at the time.
I see. And you mentioned that something like Angel Salad FC is a lot more, I guess, impressive to you.
Yeah, for sure. Because like I I only got like 400K as my best score while I was practicing for the runoff tryouts. And to just like see like get that score off of a first try was so unexpected because I was there's so many patterns in that map that like you just like have to kind of wing it, you know? Like there was so many parts where I was so uncomfortable, but I still somehow ended up hitting it. And that's why I still consider that score like one of my like outliers right now.
So speaking of run out tryouts, I think let's take a run off tryouts. Let's take a step back a little bit and talk about, I guess, how you first started getting into tournaments because I feel like you mentioned that like, I mean, you started playing in 2015, but for a couple years, even up to like 2019 or so, like it sounds like Osu is always sort of that side game for you. So I'm curious, at what point did OSU sort of become your main game? And then at what point did you start playing more tournaments?
Okay, so I think because you're definitely right about it being like my side game throughout 2019 and even towards like throughout 2020, like only until like the end or like no, it was the summer I think of 2020 that like I started taking it seriously. So when I got three digit, that was kind of just like, it was just it felt like something cool that I should just get. Like I still considered it like my side game at the time, but it was still like a game I was good at, right? And so I wanted to, get something monumental for myself. And then after that, I kind of just took like a few months off because I grinded a ton, or at least at the time, yeah, I grinded like a lot for that rank. And so I took a few months off, and then I came back, and I'm not too sure what I did throughout it, but I do remember like, oh, I think this was when during the time I got my new monitor. But what got me into tournaments was I'd say, oh, it was actually it was Drenched Program and
Oh,
White Cat's like tournament that he hosted a while ago. Those were the two main things that kind of sparked my interest in tournament because so for CPMC, I had like what do you call it? I went in there just like what do you call it? I wanted to get better at tournaments, right?
okay.
After I think it was okay after White Cat's tournament was announced, right? Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to get better at tournaments, and so I signed up for CPMC as well just to see where I was at. And on the first map of the qualifiers, I got like a really good score that put me pretty high, but then like the rest of the maps were all like kind of flops for me.
Oh
But
no.
that one map, like literally it was like a calling for me. I was just like, man, I actually want to see what I can like make out of this, right?
Of
And
like
then
tournament play?
yeah, of tournament play. And then so fast forward to summer.
This
And
is this
this
summer, like a couple months ago.
No, not this. Fast forward to what do you call it? Summer of 2020. Yeah, 2020. And this was wait, I need to check if I'm getting these dates right.
You're talking about
Because
Charlie's perfect math class?
no, I'm talking about in the summer, I'm talking about a Yuki Aim tournament actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so I grinded for that and I ended up qualifying, right? But okay, so first I think it was round of 64 or 32, but I I got swept by Exarch in the first round.
Oh no.
But I think it was round of 32. I went up against Manivat actually, and that match was really fun. I was like, I remember playing in it, and I think I was like relatively sick at the time, but I still played, and like I was so nervous throughout it. I remember shaking so bad on like all of like the maps and stuff. But But I think I ended up losing like 2-5 against him, unfortunately. But a lot of the picks were close, and so that kind of like started the snowball into like me getting into tournaments much more and more.
So that was in summer 2020. So were you three digit already by then?
Oh, I think, or no, actually, I think it was 2021. Here, I'm still in this tournament server. I can check really fast
Okay, sure.
just to make sure I'm getting this right. No, 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 it was 2021.
Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 2021, yeah. But even
Okay.
then, like, if you compare it to now, like, it seems like really early or seems like really late to get into tournaments, especially at like my rank.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like by that point you were already ranked 600, 500-ish.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, I was like 700
Okay. Oh,
during
okay.
UKM tournament.
I see. Yeah, I'm looking at your OSU track right now, and yeah, that seems accurate. So, while you were climbing the ranks, what sorts of skill sets did you gravitate towards the most? Was it like mostly only aim, or is it a mix of aim and streams, or Like, what was your sort of skill set as you were a relatively new player?
Definitely when I went up to 3 digit, I was actually like a stamina and like aim player, like hard aim. I don't think I played like a lot of like fast maps like bursty and stuff. I was definitely more on like just like raw aim because at the time I was like really bad at bursts, but that kind of like my what do you call it? Let me find the play. My Shinsaku no Shiawase score set 2 years ago when I was 4 digit. Kind of contradicts my point, but that was when I got my 144 hertz monitor actually. So
Oh,
that was kind of, but I never got a 700 until like maybe a year and a half later. So it was kind of, that's how you know it was like such an outlier play for me. But yeah, definitely when I was ranked 700 and stuff, I was a single tapper actually. So I had like good stamina, relatively good aim, but no control at all. I had like no rhythmic control, no like no alt skills, no tech either.
so when you say stamina, you're talking about single tap stamina or like long stream, like stream farm type stamina?
Both single tap stamina and long stream stamina.
Okay, but not like the finger control or anything like
None
that.
of those, none of those. I didn't get into alting until after Yuki Aim tournament.
Do you feel like, well, what would you say are the, I guess, advantages and disadvantages of single tapping versus alternating?
I think alting single tapping was really good because I felt like I always had like my stamina, you know. It never like disappeared on me and like I think it felt like it felt easier to do like stamina streams and stuff because for me like how my streaming works is just like I put all the force into my pointer finger and so like and so my what do you call it? My middle finger just like what do you call it? Just kind of followed the movements with it.
Okay.
But for me, alt alt kind of benefits me a lot more now because even though I had a really rough start, like switching, like one I had to hammer it down super hard. Like I had to overwrite like all of my like single tap scores in order to just learn how to like alt properly.
And is it a matter of getting better at like to help you with like well-roundedness in general and like playing more tournament maps?
Yeah, I think that was the main reason why I got into alting, but over time I started to just, fully convert to fully alting, and that's where I am now.
Also, now you're completely full alt,
Yeah, I'm pretty much completely full alt.
like starting bursts with your middle finger sometimes as well.
Yes.
How was that process for you? Did it come naturally with just practicing alt, or like did you try practicing like starting patterns like all with your middle finger to get used to it, or what was that process like for you?
For me, it definitely came naturally. I'm not the type of person to like try and like hammer down stuff, but I definitely played maps with the intention of just like making sure I tap everything legit and just like making sure that like I don't accidentally start with my index finger.
Okay, that makes sense. And I think the other thing, kind of similar to that, is probably like long stream stamina. Is that also something that came naturally to you from just like having? Because you make it sound like you mostly played aim maps with like very minimal bursts or streams. So I'm curious how your stamina and like long stream development was for you from like from a tapping perspective. Was that something that just came very naturally and easily to you, especially since you're tapping? Well, I guess everyone taps with their non-dominant hand, but like especially I guess in your case, was that something that felt really natural to you at first, or that you really had to build up the fundamentals for?
Um, when I was 4 digit, I definitely spent like a few of my months trying to learn how to stream properly. And but once I did, then I was able to like push my stamina a bit farther. And so that's why if you look at some of my old scores, I kind of I kind of have like stamina scores on like in Future Stagma, the 220 that stream
Oh,
map.
yeah.
Like that's still on the leaderboard, and like if I'm being completely honest, like I kind of can't beat that still.
Oh no.
Yeah, and so well, it's no worries though because it's just like what do you call it? It was just a change in skill set. But when I switched to alt, there was a certain period where I was still able to like do death streams and stuff while still being able to alt, and I think that's how that Impetuous Stagnum score came to be. But then definitely around like the early 2022 and late 2021, I started to suffer like a really bad like tapping deficiency. Mainly because I think I was hard focusing alt at the time.
Does that result in like feeling like you have less stamina? Because like, do you feel like playing single tap kind of has some benefits when it comes to stamina, or what exactly do you mean there?
Yeah, I think single tapping definitely had like what do you call it? I guess it was just a difference in technique, I should say. Because for me, single tapping, like since I always put the force in my index finger, like my ring, or I mean, yeah, my middle finger was always like free, It was always like pretty relaxed, and so it was much easier to do streams. But because I was full alting, it kind of like spreads the strain between the two, and so you have to get good at using both of your fingers.
Ah, okay, that actually does make sense. So felt like you had a sort of like slump when it comes to tapping stamina around late 2021 and early 2022. What was the process then of sort of, I guess, alleviating that or like getting your stamina back up to speed?
Definitely, I mental boomed pretty hard during those several months, but I think it kind of clicked to me when I okay, I should say like I didn't really get that tapping back until I got COVID actually during
Oh,
USC.
oh no.
And but like right after I got COVID though, I ended up being like having like a huge burst of like stamina and like speed come back to me a little bit. And so that kind of brought back my tapping grind actually. And I started to just, work on it more often. And now it's like relatively up there, but definitely not to peak. But it's still like good enough for me, I'm like satisfied.
I don't assume you would recommend people get COVID to improve their tapping.
Hell no.
Okay, just throwing that
Okay,
out there.
but funnily enough, before I knew I had COVID, like guaranteed, I did set like really good plays during that like 1 hour period of having of like suffering like fever and stuff.
Oh no.
Was it
That's
worth
interesting.
it? Maybe. Was it was it enjoyable? Nah, not really.
So, out of all of this, learning alt, pushing your stamina, and just generally rounding out your skill set, what would you say are the most important things for people to keep in mind as they're building their tournament skill set?
Don't ever forget to push skill cap. That's the number one thing I can say because I've realized this when I play tournaments and like and people that practice too much or focus too much in the tournament scene will always end up getting hard stuck in some shape or fashion. And so I like whenever I'm playing tournaments and stuff, I always make sure to practice the maps first off. But most of the time even I don't do that sometimes. I'm really bad. I'm really bad at practicing. But usually when someone tells me to, I will definitely like come and try. But I spend a lot of time like just pushing skill cap and getting like solo scores in solo, because that's like my main enjoyment in OSU. Like while tournaments are really like enjoyable and stuff and definitely feed into my competitive side, I think solo is still like one of the enjoyable things to do. One of the most enjoyable things to do in my when I'm playing OSU.
I'm glad you mentioned skill cap because I feel like that's something that's really important for people to make sure they remember, basically, when it comes to practicing their weaknesses. And especially when you're practicing map pools, some people can get caught up in like only playing the maps from the map pool and just trying to learn their weaknesses there, which does have some value for well-roundedness. But if you start to neglect really pushing your skill cap, then that can definitely lead to, as you mentioned, basically getting hard stuck. What are your sort of, I guess, principles or ways that you like to push skill cap? Like, how do you define pushing skill cap, and what does that look like for you specifically?
For me, I think when I'm pushing for skill cap, usually I kind of separate it into like two categories in my head. There's like pushing like FC skill cap, and then there's also pushing like just like raw skill cap in general. And so I think a good idea is like for me pushing like FC skill cap is kind of like maps that like are still like relatively hard for you, but you can like definitely do it. And then pushing raw skill cap is just, probably like putting on a 10 star occasionally, just like shredding through it. Because that's what Takedo does sometimes. And he kind of sends me maps stuff like that, and I'm like, oh hell yeah. I just kinda like play through it. Yeah, I think like doing that stuff definitely helps like with enjoying the game though, because like sometimes it's really hard to enjoy the game, especially when sometimes you just don't know what to do, like just like hopping on playing some like hard maps for you, or just like maybe just trying to get a score that you might have really wanted for a while. Like that stuff will help you improve a lot as a player, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's interesting that you sort of define like the two types of skill cap pushing, because I feel like some people say like raw skill cap push, like your definition of like raw skill cap is what people just consider as skill cap in general, and then FCing is more like consistency. But I think it's interesting that you sort of consider both to kind of fall under that umbrella of skill cap.
Yeah, for sure. Because consistency just kind of comes naturally. I don't think consistency is really like a skill set, but I think it's just like, so like the how should I say it? It's kind of just like I want to think of it as like a kind of like a skill bar. It's just it's like a percentage, I should say. Yeah, like a percentage. It's like someone's consistency is based off like a percentage bar. Like I kind of like, for me, I'm kind of sitting at like a 50-50. Like sometimes, like half of the time I FC, half of the time I don't. I
Oh,
put I put Kava at like a 25-75. 25% he FC, 75% he doesn't. That's kind of how I see it. But stuff like that kind of just comes naturally if you go in with the mindset of FCing. I think that's the most important thing. Like if you have the mindset to just, be like, okay, I'm gonna try FCing this map, right? But I'm not going to quit out and I'm not gonna give up. Then that's how you grow like much more. That's how I grew much more as a player, personally.
would you say there's a point in difficulty where pushing your skill cap kind of goes too far? Like if you're like relatively new and you're playing like 9 star, 10 star, obviously there can be some like fun aspect of that for some players, but as far as like actually improving, do you feel like there's a point where it kind of goes too far?
Yeah, definitely. I think Door is a good example of this, actually, because so the thing about Door is that like, or I should, yeah, I'm gonna use him as an example. So the thing
Okay.
about Door is that like he is really like AR capped, right? Like he can't read high AR, but if he grinds the map, he usually does really well, right? The more
You-
he plays
You're
it.
talking about Almighty Door?
Yeah, yeah, Almighty Door.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember him like grinding Kimi no Kyoku DT, right? And this guy had a C rank in his locals, and he grinded all the way up to an A rank in one session. And I was like, bro, how do you just manage to do that? And he was like, well, I'm reading capped on the map.
Ah, I
and
see.
and so I think the difference with like, or wait, your original question was like, what do you call it? Just like when is pushing too far, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's like a certain point where if your mechanics and your reading like can't keep up with the map, then I think you should just like not play the map at all. I definitely think like there's maps that like can challenge your reading, but you need to still have the mechanics to play the map. Like I think reading, like not being able to read the map is like fine, right? Because you can learn how to do that, but not having the mechanics for something is like definitely like a huge no, I'd say, because then you're just learning bad muscle memory.
So then, how do you push your high AR?
How I push my high AR, I definitely retry a lot. Or not retry a lot, I play through a lot.
Like, just play
Just
through the
like
entire map without retrying?
yeah, yeah, I do that like multiple times on several maps. Like for me, Mugen Cheetos 666. You guys probably know that map of like the MREC. I've played that map a lot, and I've definitely grinded up to a 92 on that map. And so it's mainly just a matter because reading like high AR is just a matter of getting used to it, right? Like it's not that easy, or I mean, it's not that easy to get reading capped than it is to get like mechanic capped, you know? It's definitely easier to get mechanic capped than reading capped, I should say.
Okay, okay, that does make sense. So then, so when you are pushing higher AR, are you trying to go like a certain AR, like couple decimal points above what's comfortable, or is it not that systematic?
It's not that systematic for me. I definitely like, there's definitely some maps that I know that are like relatively high AR, and I will pick some of those maps, but for the most part, I just play for like, I play maps that are just like fun for me. And if they end up being like relatively high AR, then that's fine. Like I can grind that stuff, you know?
Okay, okay, I see. So there is some grinding and kind of learning when it comes to pushing high AR.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
So you mentioned consistency earlier as well, and how it's basically just, I guess, culmination of how good you are in general. So I'm curious. There's, I guess, a similar aspect of play, so to speak, that is basically nerve control and nerves in general. So I guess I'll start with just, do you have any general thoughts or tips on nerve control and like your strategies for controlling those nerves?
For me, it's definitely hold the confidence that you know that you can do it, and as well as don't overthink it. Those are like my two number one things when I'm like playing in tournaments and like have to like control my nerves, obviously.
Okay, the overthinking part, I definitely agree with. Actually, the interview that just happened with Swick, he also mentioned overthinking sort of being the like main cause of nerves, like more than anything else. So, yeah, that's definitely something that I would 100% agree with. Do you have a difference between nerves in solo and nerves in tournament play?
Oh, for sure. I think for me, like the nerves in tournament come from like holding the expectations of having to like get a good score in order to support your team. But in solo for me, it's more of just like since like I definitely take solo a lot less serious than tournament play. It's more of just like a oh, I have a really good chance of like getting this cool score. Now I'll get nervous.
Oh, I see. So sort of thinking about how like it's kind of a cool score if you end up getting it.
Yeah, for sure. Or if it's like a lot of PP, you know.
All
One
right.
of one of the two.
So so talking about tournament play and sort of like, I don't know, being there for your team, so to speak, I want to go back to, you mentioned United States Cup that was actually this year, just a couple months ago. And I think that's really what put you on the radar for quite a lot of players when it comes to tournament play. So, especially Apraxia, who ended up really rooting for you in the World Cup team decisions. But if we can stay on the United States Cup for a little longer, where you played for Team Texas, how is that experience like? And what would you say are the things you learned about tournament play from that?
Definitely like I mean because for the most part, I haven't been on like a lot of like I would say like high tier teams per se. Like Texas, I think Texas was definitely like one of the like higher up teams. And like with Wowie being the leader, I was kind of hyped, you know. I thought it was like a really good team. I thought we were gonna make it far. But sometimes, you know, sometimes like sometimes things just happen, you know. Like I got COVID and Texas ended up losing to Washington in tiebreakers. So unfortunate.
Oh no.
Yeah, but definitely I think one of the most important things I learned is like whatever happens happens and like something like we just have to move on because the same thing happened in so we were in our like losers bracket, right? Semifinals, if I remember, or not semifinals. I think it was quarter, right?
I'm not sure. I can check the bracket right now,
Okay.
but uh,
But
yeah.
yeah, we went against North Carolina first, and I remember like we had such a good tournament play during that match against North Carolina, and we were so ready to like take that carry that through on to what do you call it? To go against New York, right?
Yeah.
But
So okay, I'm looking at the bracket. So Carolina was in losers. Oh, they were in the same weekend, right?
yeah.
Okay, so that was losers semis.
Oh, okay, semis. Okay, yeah. So in semis, so we played out of our minds for semis, definitely for sure. But when it came to New York after, we I don't know what happened. We all had such a really bad day all at the same time that we ended up just losing to New York really badly.
Oh no.
And so that kind of threw off all of us, you know, because we did so well yesterday and why can't we perform that well now, you know? That's kind of like the mentality that we had at the time, which I was also thinking that way too because I like played really well in North Carolina match. Like I almost FC'd a Nomad 3 and stuff, right? Like
Oh
I had
wow.
really good scores. But I like couldn't show up for the next map, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Like it was just like it felt like it wasn't me that was playing, you know. I was just missing everywhere. I even though we triple FC DT3 on that next match, like it just didn't feel like we were, you know, doing as well as we should have been doing.
So from a mental perspective and I guess mindset in that sense, what are some learnings that you had through that experience in the United States Cup?
Definitely just like you have to really have like a strong mentality to realize that to like acknowledge the fact that you're playing bad and that like whatever happens happens because I know there's a lot of people that like mentally boom, you know, because of not meeting their expectations, right? But sometimes you just kind of have to like push through that, you know? Like that's how I usually get through like a lot of my matches and stuff, you know, just sometimes you just got to push through and like whatever happens happens. Like because I know during the runoff tryouts, I was actually in VC with Razor at the time when we
Oh,
were
during the
doing it.
tryout.
Yeah, we were doing it together. Like we went into that match thinking that like we want like one of us were gonna make it, and we didn't care who of the two of us would make it. And so and so like I kind of just heard him like mental boom like much further into like the tryouts because it was like because not only did I end up popping off, but he ended up like underperforming like much later into the much later maps. And it was definitely really sad for me to like what do you call it? Because I mean I'm really close to him or not really close to him, but like we were definitely close to each other. And so like kind of just like to take that spot from a friend kind of hurt me inside. But at the same time it's like everyone is saying that like I deserved it and stuff, and so it kind of left like a very bittersweet taste in my mouth.
I want to focus in on the World Cup tryout experience for you specifically, because I know a lot of people are probably just hearing about you for the first time, having made it onto the World Cup team for United States this year in 2022. But the tryouts was particularly interesting, I think, from your perspective, because basically, so, and I can sort of give context for what led to the runoff tryouts, as you're mentioning, but
Mhm.
the the team was being made, which basically was we took the strongest players that were definitely going to be on the team. That was Utami, Fancy Lad, Rectagon, and Taquito. And then from there, we started basically filling in people that were performing well during tryouts. and just sort of like in general in other tournaments at the time. That was Manko, Sawada, and then Boshiman ended up performing very well in his tryouts as well. And then that led one slot left with quite a lot of people showing a lot of promise. And the three main players that stood out through all our discussion on who should be the last player was you, Decaten, Razorfruit, and Kablaze. And after a lot of discussion trying to figure out who should be that eighth player and trying to weigh the pros and cons and look at each of your different skill sets, we basically decided that this was mostly Fancy Lad, I think, that was really pushing for this, but he decided that we should basically hold a second tryout just for you three and put a bunch of pressure on you, basically, almost by intent of the design of that runoff tryout. But it was basically get you all in a group together, be like, hey, two of you, or one of you is going to make the World Cup team this year, two of you are not, but we need to decide who. So we made a special map pool for you guys to test the specific skills that we're looking for. And the lobby is going to be this weekend. You're all playing. You just threw you all in there with a super, super high pressure. Like, this is basically do or die in that sense to make the World Cup team. And so that is what we're talking about when we say runoff tryouts, which you ended up performing just a cut above Razorfruit and Kablaze, and you ended up on the team this year. So as you mentioned, I actually didn't know that you were in voice with Razorfruit. I feel like in some sense it actually makes sense, because I feel like it kind of takes the pressure off, especially if you're relatively close with Razorfruit, instead of feeling so competitive and feeling like there's so much pressure that you're like, you want to make the team, but you don't want to kind of ruin the chances for someone that you're relatively close with. So yeah, I'm curious a bit more about like what was going through your head like during that whole time, even like when you first found out about the runoff tryout.
Honestly, when I realized that like I got a shot at like making the team, I tried to take like full advantage of that. I was definitely like really hyped to like have like a final chance to like make the team, And I think definitely compared to Kablaze and Razorfruit, I think I was definitely much more motivated at the time to definitely like push through and try and like get that final spot on the team. And I think that like that motivation just kind of carried me through like the entire runoff tryouts as well. I went into that tryouts just thinking like whatever happens happens, and like I'm just gonna give like my best shot that like I could possibly do.
Before the interview started, someone was asking about like your quote unquote best skill set, and you sort of define yourself as a mechanics player. I'm curious if you can define what exactly that actually means.
I think personally mechanics just focuses on like raw physical capabilities, whether it's aim, tapping. Those are like the two main things that I think about when I think of mechanics. And obviously mechanics can be split into like can fit into multiple like skill sets, like maybe tech, obviously, of course. But I think definitely like physical capabilities is what I would define mechanics to be.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people relate mechanics and skill cap to each other. Some people I think kind of think of them as the same thing.
Mm.
Is that something you would somewhat agree with, like mechanics and skill cap, or do you feel like they're kind of different?
I'd say they're kind of different because for me, like I think reading and like tech can like even though they're really high skill cap, sometimes they don't even have to focus on aim and tapping at all. Sometimes they can just be really gimmicky.
Ah, okay. So skill cap is more like how well you can do a certain skill, even if it's not related to like pure mechanics like aim and tapping.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, that does make sense. So yeah, I do also remember during the World Cup team formation that I think you weren't that much in discussion, mostly because people didn't recognize you. But Apraxia being in that conversation and having played with you in the United States Cup on Team Texas was really, I guess, advocating for your performance. And you were like, guys, Decaden literally like top scorer at every single map. Like he just played super super well in United States Cup, and like you guys should take his tryouts a bit more seriously. And from there, I think that was another thing that really led to having you on the runoff tryouts as well.
Okay, yeah. So to continue off of that, I think one of the main things that like almost sabotaged my tryouts almost was the week one tryouts actually. Because I know for sure like I didn't perform like well at all during the first week of tryouts. And that was because I had a really long session that like weekend, and I kind of overplayed myself really hard. And so I was just like going into that first week of trials being like, okay, I'm just gonna play it, and I'm getting off like right after, right? But then second week came around, and I was like, okay, I'm just I made sure to like mentally and physically prepare myself a lot better for this time around, and that was how my second week tryouts ended up being really good.
What did that mental and physical preparation sort of look like?
Definitely just like definitely playing through the maps just a bit more because during the first week of tryouts, those were my sight reads.
Oh, what?
Yeah, those were my sight reads. And so I was like throughout the week, I was just like, all right, I'm gonna play a few of the maps, each day. And like definitely not tire myself out and just, rest much more throughout the week.
It kind of sounds like you didn't give OWC that much like thought, I guess, in week one. It was like it sounds like you were trying out. It seemed like something that was fun for you, but you didn't consider yourself as a strong contender for the team, as evident by the fact that you sight read the first week of tryouts.
Uh, I did care somewhat about it, but I think the main thing about me is that like I am very like I'm very bad about when it comes to like practicing and stuff, obviously, like when I'm solo and stuff. And I tend to procrastinate really hard or just like, just make dumb decisions, of course. And so and so that kind of ties into like why it doesn't look like I cared that much into it. But obviously you can see with the second week trial style, I was like I was actually serious to some degree.
I see it. Yeah, that also definitely seems like it paid off. And so, having been so at the time we are recording this, we just finished the round of 32 of the World Cup bracket. So basically, we just finished the first round of bracket stage where we or you guys played against Israel. I don't know why I almost said Brazil, but Israel. And can you talk a bit about that match? I feel like that was somewhat of a hot topic right after it happened.
I think I think one of the most important things to mention about that match was I wasn't even there.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so here's the thing, right? I wanted to reschedule. We needed to reschedule, right? Because I had area. So there's this like Texas thing, right? And like marching band is like really popular in like North Texas area or just Texas in general. And so and so I had this all day competition on Saturday, right? And I try to get Joel to like what do you call it, reschedule, right? But it ended up they tried to Joel tried to ask for the reschedule, but Israel couldn't do it, and so I ended up just like not being able to play the match.
Yeah, I do remember that. And I mean, I'm sure, like, I mean, early stage, it's always possible that, like, people don't show up for a weekend or so in the earlier rounds. But yeah, I'm curious. I mean, even just like the general team environment that you've been in and having played qualifiers and things like that. Well, first of all, I'm curious, how does OWC feel compared to any other tournament for you?
For me, I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit startled by the what do you call it? By the team originally, because obviously like I have never like played with any of you guys, or like any with like Joel, Kevin, Alex, I've never played with them in a tournament really. And so like they kind of seemed like, because they're like my idols, right? I kind of like idolize them. And, but when I finally eased into the team, like it was definitely a lot more welcoming than I originally expected it to be. And so I definitely really like the team environment this year, and really hope to enjoy playing more with these guys.
So you mentioned in the week one of tryouts that you kind of overplayed at the time. Can you talk a bit about like sort of what I guess for one, like what you consider overplaying, and also if you have any words of caution for people to make sure that they don't end up, I guess, quote unquote, overplaying as well.
Okay, so for me as a mouse player, definitely for like if you play for like a prolonged amount of time, obviously I don't think I think it's more apparent in tablet players, but obviously like your aim hand starts to get, sore and stuff, obviously. And but I don't know if it's definitely a lot more controllable with mouse, I'd say. Like I can imagine like hand pains like screwing tablet players up much more, but yeah, that definitely played a factor in like my aim and stuff. But not only that, but my tapping was like it got really slow eventually. And so that's why all of my tapping scores just ended up just flopping really hard. Or not even just like the tapping scores, like some of the finger control stuff, like stuff that I could usually do when I'm not tired, like I couldn't do. And so I guess like a word of caution for like people, just like monitor yourself and know like when you realize that you like can't really push for those scores anymore. Just know that know what you can do at the moment and know when it's time to like get off. I think definitely when like your hand starts to get much more sore and stuff, or when your tapping gets to a point where it's like very slow, that's when I usually get off and stuff. Not only that, but sometimes you can even get off when you're at the peak of your session. Sometimes I've gotten off where I set like a really good score and then I just hop off, because sometimes you don't want to push your luck. Because I think ending it on a high, I think ending like your session on a high is like really important to your mental and stuff. And while you don't have to do that, like obviously if you have the mental fortitude, you can just keep playing right after. But you shouldn't expect yourself to like get like a really good score after getting that one as well. And so like yeah, that's kind of how I see it.
That's an interesting perspective, especially the sort of ending on a high note for mental. But I feel like that actually makes a lot of sense to just kind of keep you excited and wanting to come back on in your next session.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Oh.
oh yeah,
No, no, you can go. You can go.
you also mentioned band a little bit that you're in band. How was that experience for you, especially in like, I guess, time management and balancing, especially now that you're playing in quite a competitive team in the World Cup this year? How is it sort of managing and balancing like time management between like marching band, which is like very time consuming, especially in high school, and I guess all the other hobbies and schoolwork and whatever else it is that you have?
Definitely during marching band season. My season actually ended like set on Saturday actually for the most part, but I still have like a few like football games and stuff to go to still. But definitely time management was probably like one of the hardest things to deal with while I was doing marching band, because most of the time like I was flooded with like homework and stuff. And I like just didn't have the mental capacity, or maybe even like the physical capacity to do like my homework and stuff. And so I ended up just like saving that for tomorrow and stuff, and or stuff like that, or either that I like pull like a until 1 a.m. before I go to bed sort of thing. So obviously like it was really rough, to say the least. Like all of my band friends say that we all have it rough. Like I know some of my friends just like we all struggled during marching band, like with our grades and stuff, because that like none of us really have the capacity to like, keep pushing through, sometimes. And
Yeah.
it can get really busy really fast. And so learning to stay on top of that stuff and just like knowing, I think the main thing actually was that I really only played Osu on Fridays or like, during the weekends. I would try and play Osu like, a day or two before the weekends if I had any tournament matches because I was like for me, my skill doesn't like come back until like usually like after a day of just derusting and stuff. And so just knowing like how you just knowing like your body and like how rest and stuff like happens to you and stuff is very important if you wanna like manage your time and stuff properly.
Do you have any general, I guess maybe not general, but even like very specific tips or strategies that you use for time management, especially between like schoolwork and all these different things that you had going on?
Definitely if you have free time in school, please do your homework. That is what saved me, dude. That's like actually like what saved me. And not only that, but also make sure you retest like during marching band season, especially. Or just like if you're really busy, like make sure you prepare yourself for like retests and stuff in case you do bad.
What
Because
is retest exactly?
it's just like it's in my school district, but like you can like if you do bad like below an 85. Oh, they changed it though. They changed it to a 90 actually. So if you like score below a 90 and stuff, you can retake like some exams and stuff to get that grade back up.
Oh, wait, that's cool actually. What? Man, that sounds cool.
Yeah, and then at my school specifically, we have this thing called a waterfall. And so basically, if you do bad on like your quizzes and stuff, but you do well on the test, your test grade gets transferred over to your quiz grades.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I remember that. I think we have something similar. Or we did where like if you do well on the exam, then it'll override the grade of like your lowest quiz or something.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is that like it overrides like a majority of your grades, except for like maybe a specific few that your teacher might say is like not like waterfallable and stuff.
Interesting.
But yeah, just make the most out of your time. I'd say it's not a lack. It's not that it's a lack of time that you have, but it's more so of you need to focus the time that you have into putting all of your effort into it to make the most out of your time. And I think that's like the essence of time management because it's not about doing everything to make sure you have a lot of time. It's about using the time that you have to make the most out of it.
That is definitely wise. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I know someone before mentioned that like you have a lot more time than you realize if you really make the most of all the hours in your day. So, and especially what you mentioned with like doing your homework when you have free time, like during actual school, during classes, is super, super powerful. So, I'm also curious, as I think you've mentioned that like band is something that's pretty relevant to you. What got you first started in band, and are there any, I guess, principles of improving at band and playing your instrument that you feel like are generalizable, if not just to Osu specifically, then just sort of in general?
Actually, I made the analogy. Okay, hold on. I need to go through someone's DMs because I made this analogy with someone that I was like, man, this is like here. Let me see if I can find it because there is definitely like some correlations to like getting better at my instrument in band and like also getting better at like Osu.
So, what instrument do you
And
play?
I play the euphonium, also known
Okay,
as
yep,
the
that's
yeah,
good.
also known as the baritone. And so I think one of the main things to realize is that like overplaying also exists in band, especially for brass instruments. Because for us, like if you play loud for too long and you don't like warm down and stuff, you can end up you can end up just like fatiguing yourself really hard, and you might even injure yourself. So it's important to like not only take care of yourself and like drink lots of water, but it's also important to like manage like how much you're playing at a time.
Injure
And
as in like within like I guess your throat from blowing hard.
no, injure on your lips actually.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Oh, from like kind of pursing them to blow properly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like, but I think that's like the main thing. I really want to find this analogy because it was so good. Okay, I I actually can't find it. It's so hard.
Oh no.
But yeah, I think there's definitely like some correlation that I have discovered with with band and what do you call it, Osu.
Yeah.
Wait, so what was the originally question? Because I know there was like other stuff that I could answer.
Well, what got you into band in the first place?
Oh, okay. So the same person, my brother, who got me into Osu, also was like my inspiration to get into the band actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so my brother was a percussionist, and originally like when I was young, it's kind of like you don't understand. You kind of just like don't understand like the significance of like band and stuff until like you grow into it. And so I I went with the euphonium because I was like I wanted to be different from my brother.
Ah, interesting.
And so yeah, that's kind of what happened. And at first, like I didn't really like it. I kind of wanted to switch over. I kind of regretted it, but over time, I kind of just like learned to just like enjoy my instrument. And actually, sticking with my instrument has provided me some what do you call it? Some indirect benefits, like gaining a little bit of muscle through marching bands.
Oh, yep. Yep, I can imagine. So, was that in middle school that you started playing band or
Yeah, middle school. And I've been in band for like pretty much 6 years now, and I'm definitely staying in for the last year, my senior year.
dang, that's cool. I like how you mentioned your brother with band and being I guess picking euphonium to be different because personally my brother did play euphonium. So, that's a I don't know, interesting parallel there. So this is completely unrelated, but I wanted to ask about your OC banner. I have your profile up, and it's this like uh, anime style drawing, like manga style drawing of a character with a gun, and there's like Korean text. And I'm curious what the story is or context is behind you setting this banner.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I just thought it was really cool.
What
I
is it
I
though?
I, I think it's just made girls with guns. I'm pretty sure. It
Oh,
was like, you see, here's the thing. I'm definitely like appreciative of like I'm definitely like an art appreciator. Like I have a separate burner account for all that stuff. Like I keep all that stuff separate from my main because I know there's a lot of people who don't who don't want to see art all over their feed. And so that's why I tend to keep like those two accounts separated.
oh, on Twitter you're talking about?
Yeah, and then I've also like drawn a little bit myself, but I don't really draw much anymore. But I still like appreciate anyone that doesn't.
Any analogies between art and your other skills?
I think one of the biggest analogies I can make is definitely like art block, like not knowing what to do, not knowing what to draw. Sometimes, you just have to kind of, just play the game. It's kind of like being like hitting a plateau in OSU almost. Because you want to draw, but at the same time you don't want to, but you also don't feel like you're growing as a player. And it's kind of the same thing with art because there's definitely times where I've been like, oh yeah, I'm getting pretty good at drawing, and then you realize that like, oh man, I'm not that good at
Oh
drawing,
no.
and so you kind of enter like this slump. But just making sure that you always enjoy yourself doing like these activities like these and knowing like the boundaries of like what's to take serious and then what's to like make sure that you enjoy yourself in is like very important.
Ah, I see. That does make sense. Yeah, I feel like art definitely has that compared to a lot of other activities, but that there's definitely that parallel there as well.
Yeah, I think art is like a lot more like time consuming as well because it's definitely patience. Like you have to like stick with it for a long time and like make sure that you dedicate yourself to it if you want to get like really good, you know? Because there's a lot to learn. Like compared to Osu, like art has so much to learn and there's so much like nuances and stuff in it that it's like definitely like very hard to get into if you're a person that like wants to improve really fast and stuff.
Yeah, that patience aspect, I mean, it definitely applies no matter what skill, but yeah, definitely for art, there's just such a deep rabbit hole of like different styles and just sort of like, I guess, fundamentals. I feel like there's, I'm not sure what this analogy really draws to, but I would say like tracing as opposed to like really being able to construct a piece from like, I guess, first principles, quote unquote. But yeah, I think it's like really like you can draw some like a representation of something on surface level, but like really having the foundation or fundamentals to know like how to draw something like that from scratch is definitely like a whole different game.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why artists use a ton of references. Like even like for like even for like professional artists, like anyone uses references and stuff because it's like you really can't do that just like off the top of your head, you know? It's really hard to.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So going back to Osu for a little bit, I'm curious if you have any goals now that you've made it on the World Cup team and are continuing, I assume, to push yourself to be better and better. Do you have any sort of end game or long term goals for yourself for this game?
I definitely after making OWC, I've been definitely like in a sort of like I've been in a confused stage, you know, because I'm at the point where it's like I'm like definitely like good at my stuff, but it's like how should I say it? It's kind of I feel kind of directionless right now, but obviously like it just takes, you know, it takes I think right now one of my long-term goals, I guess, is just to like connect more with people, you know? I think that's really important.
You mean like throughout those community?
Yeah, throughout the community and just in general because I feel like I feel like I'm not like what do you call it? I'm kind of nervous around people a lot IRL, even though sometimes it doesn't seem like that, but yeah, it's just kind of hard.
Do you have plans with anything related to like content creation, making YouTube videos, or anything like
Oh,
that?
yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I wanna stream more definitely, but I procrastinate really hard on that,
Oh no.
and just like it's funny because I say some of like my advice that I should follow, and then I just don't follow it. You know, it's kind of contradictory and kind of hypocritical of me, but nonetheless, you should follow my advice.
I'm curious, looking at your Twitch channel that's named Dekajinshi, what is the story behind that name?
Okay, so Decaten was actually like a play on my name, you know, because that like Decaten. So, uh, I have this one Roblox group from like 2018 or something called called Illegal Anime Industry, and basically, me and my friends, we kind of just uploaded like anime T-shirts on there, and like yeah, we kind of just made Roblox off of that, and it was going well for a little bit until the group got banned, but um. Yeah, it was, and Deka Jinji was kind of just like the nickname for me. So it was obviously just a play. It was just a play on my name and the Jinshi, and I kind of just like combined it. And I think it fit with the theme of like you know illegal anime industry, obviously with the Roblox group, and it had a nice like what do you call it? It had a nice like ring to it, and so I kind of just like I appreciate that username a lot because it's just it's pretty it's pretty unique.
Yeah, I do definitely think so. Is it like basically what you use when Decaden is taken?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd say so. Yeah.
Except for Twitter. Twitter, it seems like you have Decaden underscore.
Oh yeah. I wanted to like what do you call it? Just use my actual username or like what do you call it? Use something so that people wouldn't get confused.
Okay, that does make sense. So yeah, I mean, for streaming in particular, I feel like as long as you stream your World Cup matches or tournament matches, that's a pretty consistent way to make sure you at least stream something that you know people are going to want to tune in for.
Hmm.
But yeah, speaking of goals or plans and that sort of thing, you mentioned that your birthday is tomorrow, October 25th. It's in, I guess, 5 hours for you. So happy early birthday. Do you have any fun plans?
Yeah, I'm gonna go out with my parents to eat out to like this Korean place in Plano. It's pretty good. I've been there before with like another friend's birthday, and so I was like, man, I want to go there again.
Man, that sounds good. Let's go. All right. So I'm curious, out of everything, all your experiences with OSU through your solo play scores and all your tournament adventures and making the World Cup team and meeting new people, what would you say out of everything is your favorite thing about OSU?
I really just I really love the people that I met in this game. I'm not gonna lie. Like Razor Fruit, Bashi Man, Kama, like those are the three goats. Oh, and Door. I love Door too, yeah. Those are like the four people that like I I can't replace them, bro. They're so awesome. I like there's just so many people that I've like enjoyed meeting. And obviously I know that like some people kind of get frustrated with me sometimes when I brag about my scores a lot, but
Oh, no.
don't worry. I'm trying so hard. I'm trying so hard to be humble.
That's funny.
But I also think that what do you call it? Just another like side topic to add on. Like I think people should all like be more vocal about like their accomplishments and stuff. I think that promotes like really good it promotes motivation for you, to keep playing because it's like, oh yeah, like, this is what I consider good, and I hope you guys consider this score good too. Stuff like that. And definitely I've definitely gotten jealous of my friends, but but it's there's that like certain point where I'm like, okay, they can do that, but I can do this. You kind of have to have confidence in yourself, definitely. And so that has built up like a very like good rivalry between like me, Razor, Kama, like all of us, pretty much.
I'm looking at your profile and you have a box towards the bottom called motivation, and there's a couple names written in here. And also there's a couple of references to Mania. So what's your experience, I guess, with Mania? And then also, do you have anything you'd like to elaborate on for any of the people that you mentioned in that box in your user page?
Definitely. Okay, so Neptune Fun. I actually met that guy through Roblox.
Oh,
Yeah, it's kind of funny. So I didn't know he was like a top Mania player until like we started talking more to each other. And so like we both have been because here's the thing, Neptune is I think his username is Grip Warrior now. He's also like a really insane tournament player, like for Mania.
oh yeah, what the
He
heck?
he played in OWC second place and third place for Team
The
USA.
Yeah, the Mania World Cup 4K.
Yeah. And so that guy, me and him are kind of like we're kind of like the game mode buddies. I pop off in my own game mode, and then he pops off in his other game mode. And we both we both tried to learn each other's games.
Ah, I see.
And and so like I even though I'm nowhere near close to him, I got somewhat good at Mania, but and he also got somewhat good at Standard. well, obviously not close to each other. None of us.
Wait, that's actually crazy that you met on Roblox seems to be a pretty big influence on you, I feel like.
Yeah, I think yeah, Roblox was definitely like one of my early childhood games, and so I kind of just stuck with it forever and ever. At some point I wanted to quit it, but as you can see, I never got to it. So,
Dang.
and then another person I really want to mention is Liar. They so I was like a 4 digit at the time, and they kind of just like randomly started spectating me.
Oh,
And And so I think I had a really good session at the time, but they were like the first person to like acknowledge that like I had potential in the game pretty much. And I will forever be grateful to them because they like were like the number one person that I was like, man, like they pretty much just like kind of carried my motivation to, get all the way here. And like recently they hit me up again, congratulating me for making OWC and gifted me a whole year of supporter.
oh, that's what that is. Yeah, I'm looking at their user page and in their recents, it seems like they haven't really been playing since. Actually, they have no play count since February this year. But in their recent activity, it says that they bought a supporter tag.
Yeah, and so like I like what do you call it? I've always treasured them really closely. And even though we don't talk much, like I won't forget them ever.
Dang, that's so wholesome. They have you in their user page as an inspiration for streams and tech.
What's funny is that that's like outdated too. It's like that's like when I was a 4 digit man.
Dang,
They've had me there for a while, and I'm happy about it.
that's super wholesome. So I guess this is more of a general wrap up type of question, but are there any general principles or tips or I guess advice that you have about improving at the game in general or I guess just improving at things in general, even aside from just OSU?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me personally, what carried me through like my improvement the hardest is just making sure you have fun with the game. Like you can and like being able to build tolerance too. I think a lot of players who aren't like as well versed just like just need to like kind of expand their horizons a bit more when it comes to like playing different maps and stuff. And and that's kind of what like made me like so well rounded was because I like thoroughly enjoy a lot of maps, and there's not really a lot of maps that I hate at all. I kind of all like generalize them into like good maps and stuff, and like even if there are maps that are like genuinely bad, so some of them got a charm to them, and so like I still play them. Like I know there's a lot of people that might like hate like FanGen and like Halloween sort of mapping for like a few maps, but like I play those like definitely like what is it? I'm trying to think of one map in particular, but it won't come to me, so but other than that, I think another piece of advice that I have is just like make sure you like grind, I think. And like like spend some time on like a single map. You don't have to like play maps once and expect yourself to get it the first time. Like a lot of my best scores I've gotten was because I like kept persisting with the map, and just like pushing through, just making sure, just believing in yourself and just being like, yeah, I have the potential to FC this. Like that's what helped me the most. And obviously, don't get me wrong, you'll obviously have some bad days. Like there's no way you don't. Like even I get frustrated so bad sometimes, and on those days I just like make sure I take a step back. I like think about like what's actually like what am I doing right now, and just like reassessing what I should do. I think that's the main thing. It's being able to acknowledge like how strong you are mentally and like knowing like what you can take.
What exactly do you mean by like reassessing what you should do? Like, how does one exactly figure that out?
I think for me, when I'm like when I have like a really bad stamina day, I think I sometimes I'm just like when I get like really frustrated, I make sure I like control myself, right? Like like there's like a certain amount of self-control that you have to do this. And like I just like sometimes like I know stamina is not like one of my best skill sets either. And so I like sometimes I switch to like a different skill set, like maybe all something I'm more comfortable at, or just, just like maybe hop off the game, or maybe even hop into multi lobby, just like try and interact with people. It's all the little things that like can make you happier.
Yeah,
I kind of rambled a bit, but
no, I completely agree with that. I think there's a lot of people that kind of get so caught up in either just focusing on improvement or just trying really hard to, I guess, play the game almost as a chore in some sense, instead of just, I guess, as you mentioned, like appreciating like little quirky, wholesome things about some like lower quality, quote unquote, maps or like less popular maps, and playing playing the game for the game that it truly is.
hmm. And okay, wait, someone asked a question in the
Yeah,
chat, and
I
so
can read out the question if you want.
all
So,
right.
someone asked, "What does your average OSU session look like, such as how to warm up, and also what is your opinion on armrests?"
Okay, so my warm up tends to look like it'll look pretty standard. So usually I tend to play like a map, usually no mod with like maybe like some like good aim jumps and some like streams as well. So that like I get like a very good like round warm up. Obviously like that's just what works for me and like but like that's like a really good like fundamental like for me I think one of my best like warm up maps is C18
Yeah,
or wait,
yeah,
hold up.
yeah, I think so.
C18, H27, NF3.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, that map by
Yeah,
Team Grimoire.
that's one of my favorite maps to warm up on. That map is like just it's just so well rounded
The
for
Cloyd
like
map?
mechanics. Yeah, the loved one, the loved one.
Oh, the loved one. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that map a lot. That's just like what I warm up on. And then from there, like I just play whatever. Like usually I only play like one map that's like really good, and then after that I just play whatever. Yeah, and then whatever happens to my session happens to my session.
Oh, the 8-star one that has like the Miku with the flower as
Yeah,
on
yeah,
her
yeah,
eye.
yeah, yeah, that
Okay,
one.
I see. Yeah, this one is mapped by High Tech.
And then opinion on armrests. Personally, I used to use them, but for some reason I stopped using them, and then I got a keypad, so I don't really use armrests anymore. But from the time that I was using armrests, they're pretty OP. Or like, yeah, I was pretty good at streaming when I did use them. So I guess if you want to be a stream player, you can try it. Do you
So,
ever stretch
oh,
or
yeah.
hands or arms before playing? Oh yeah, you can read it if you
Okay.
want.
Yeah, so someone else asked, do you ever stretch or your hands or arms before playing?
I usually do it mid-session. I don't personally, I don't do it before because like what do you call it? I don't know. Sometimes I just like hopping on the game.
Oh,
uh yeah, but usually when I do start to feel like discomfort in my hands and stuff, I do stretch, yeah.
do you use
Arms,
like certain like routines for stretching or like follow along videos and stuff?
I don't have any like particular videos. Like I do have some bookmark, but I haven't got to watching them. But usually I do hands that focus on like like the back of your hands. I usually focus. That's where like the discomfort usually comes from on my aim
Right.
hand, and so I focus on trying to stretch that out.
Okay, I see.
And then I think that's like the only really part that I need to stretch though. Like tapping and stuff. Like I feel like when I do stretch my I don't know, it's just me personally, but when I do stretch like my pointer finger and middle finger, which are like my main tapping fingers, like usually they get worse.
Oh no.
But yeah, that's just me though. Like do what's best for you, you know? Like I'm not like I should say like what works for me should might not work for you, and so I would recommend just experimenting and stuff.
Someone asked, "Is the rain bad right now for you?"
Wait, I can check out my window. Yeah, I mean, it was bad in early in the morning, but I can check right now.
Okay. That's funny.
Nah, it's not raining anymore. But it was raining pretty hard earlier in the day.
One thing I do want to mention regarding your sort of setup overall is I feel like you have your monitor pretty close to you relative to a lot of other people.
Mm. Okay, so for me, I used to have a setup where, what do you call it? Where like I have my monitors on an arm now. And so like I can kind of like tilt it and like move it however I want to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so now I keep it like closer than it used to be, but back when I didn't have that and just had like the stands, I played pretty far. And but personally for me, what works for me is that like I keep OSU, like I keep my monitor like straight. I keep it like straight and then also just like far enough where I can see the whole entire monitor.
Okay, okay, I see. So it's straight as in like not tilted down or up.
Yeah, not tilted down or up.
Okay, I see.
I know like BTMC tilts is up, I think, right? If I
That
remember
I'm
correctly.
not sure actually.
I just remember seeing it one time, but yeah, I tend to keep my monitor straight, yeah.
Someone asked, "What mouse pad have you found to be good while playing?"
Um
Or mouse
okay,
pads?
so for me, I tried the GameSense radar and for the short amount of time that I used it, I could get onto that mouse pad like instantly and I was so like I felt so in control and like felt really consistent on the GameSense radar. But then I got like my actual mouse pad, my Artisan VN, and while it took a while to get used to because it was definitely a lot faster and like the surface was a lot rougher compared to like normal cloth mouse pads, it ended up being like my favorite mouse pad to use.
Oh,
How big is my hand relatively to my mouse? Um, I'd say it's just right. Like I have a G Pro Superlight and it is I play like with like a what should I say? Like a fingertip grip. Oh, I no no no, I dude, I switched mice a while ago, dude.
yes. Someone said they thought you used a Model O. Do you
Yeah.
feel like the mouse that you use makes a really big difference?
Um okay, I mean I'm left-handed, so like I try to get like ambidex mice, but I think yeah, I think not like the mouse shape in particular, but I think the quality of the sensor matters a lot. Because also you have to like move like your mouse a lot, obviously, right? And and if you have a bad sensor, like that can obviously get like throw off some stuff and can make you screw up for no reason. Like for me when I was on my Model O, there like it was definitely good. Like it felt good to hold and stuff, but like the sensor was just like the quality of the sensor was just so bad. I like couldn't deal with it. And so I ended up just getting a new mouse, and the G Pro Superlight has done me wonders so far.
Someone asked, wired or wireless?
Wireless,
Oh,
wireless. Because what do you call it? I used to be wired, but I got a so my second ever mouse was a G903, and and that was kind of like my introduction to wireless mice, and honestly from then on like I saw the potential of wireless mice, and so I kind of just stuck with it, and yeah.
Someone said, does the mouse skip a bit? Like, does it like cut out every now and then?
No, not for me.
Someone asked, when are you starting the Deca gang? I'd like to be Deca 15.
No, you have to stay true. Like Deca is like the Roman numeral, right? And so you have to do like Quadra 4, you know? That's how it
Oh,
works.
oh god, that's funny. I don't know what the prefix is for 15.
I also don't know.
I'm
I
sure
was
it
about to
exists.
say King but that's Spanish.
Oh, that's funny. Someone asked, what do you think about Nyan Potato's mouse grip?
I have never seen his mouse script before. Here, wait. Let me see if I can. Can you send a picture of it?
Yeah, I feel like that probably. I mean, oh, okay, there we go. So someone sent a picture, and I'll put it on
Oh,
the
okay.
screen as well. But you can give your thoughts on it now.
Honestly, that's not even a bad mouse grip. I actually like because okay, so I think yeah, that's so obviously the way he's holding, like he has his middle finger and his index finger on it is definitely just for more stability. Like you don't like for me, I keep my mouse like my fingers on like on the clicks, but like the way he's holding it is like completely fine, and I think that's actually like I can see myself using that. Well, actually, never mind. No, I don't. I like my mouse. It definitely works for some people though. So don't feel restricted to try stuff out.
Someone said, when is the drip buying meetup?
What is the trip buying meetup? I don't know, man. I've been online shopping a lot.
Oh, it's what's the context behind that question?
What do you call it? So I have a what do you call it? I have a fashion Discord that was made because I had a fashion circle, like a Twitter circle, and it was mainly just a way to get my like it was my introduction into just getting into fashion more, and
Oh,
so I've been diving into the rabbit hole pretty hard, and so. And so yeah, that's how that question originated.
okay, I see. Someone sent a question on the forum, and they said, how is it possible for one man to be so drippy?
Hey man, it definitely takes up a lot of like true. Definitely number one, have an inspiration. I have what do you call it? I have like a few inspirations that I follow on Instagram and stuff, and just like learning off of how they like of like their color blocking and stuff is very important, and also just how they layer clothes on top of each other, and also just understanding like the importance of like the essentials that they use and how that fits into like when they want to you make like a unique outfit that uses a unique piece.
Seems like there's like a lot of layers to all this stuff, even fashion, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think I've definitely like scoured into the sort of deep end of it, but all in all, just dress like for fashion it's kind of similar to OSU that like OSU you can kind of like express how you want to be as a player. You know, I don't think there's no right or wrong way of what kind of player you want to be. Same thing with fashion, you know, there's no right or wrong way to dress as well, and like what stuff that you can like.
That's a good point, actually. I feel like there's a lot of room for like personal expression, so to speak, not only in your play style, but the types of maps that you play, which I guess to some people is kind of the same thing.
Someone sent a picture of me.
Oh my god.
Good fits. Here, I'll send one. I'll send one recently.
Let's go. Someone asked thoughts on how to get better fashion.
Thoughts on how to get better fashion. I mean, I've already sort of answered that question before. Like,
Yeah.
just have an inspiration and stuff. Like, that's kind of how to get girlfriend. Bro, you think I got one?
Oh my god.
I can't. See, this is why I love the OC community sometimes, bro.
That's so troll. I feel like this type of energy is wanted on your Twitch streams more often.
Yeah, maybe. Just I should maybe this convinced me to do a stream in the future. But yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed this interview though.
Yeah, that was super fun. And thank you for taking the time. Do you have any final words of wisdom or inspiration or advice or anything you'd like to share with the world?
All right, guys. Number one thing, I want you guys to believe in yourselves and shred.
Let's go. All right. Thanks again, Decaten. I'm sure we'll see you around many, many places. So you mentioned your socials earlier. It was kind of scattered around, but are there any places people can find you other than your OSU profile?
Definitely my Twitter. I definitely post a lot more on there and relatively more active on there, if anything. My Twitter also is like the second most active thing, even though it's not that active at all. But yeah, that's like the two main things that I want people to like, what do you call it? Visit me on.
I just realized I went to your Twitter and I found the avatar that you're using on Discord right now. I've been looking at your avatar this entire interview trying to figure out what it was. What? Oh my god. What?
Yeah, dude, yeah, it's been pretty funny. Dude, this has been, this entire, what do you call it? Like the whole like 24-hour PFP tweet, it literally blew up my notifications the entire day, dude.
Oh my god, that's funny.
Oh my god. But yeah, I think that's it, honestly.
Yeah, sounds good. I think we've covered a wide range and I really appreciate your perspective on all things, both OSU and non-OSU alike. But thanks again to Caden for joining us and everyone for tuning in and listening. We will see you all next time.
Thank you. Bye, guys.